Hello, my name is Mahmoud Awuddah. Good day, everyone. For my presentation today, I picked two works that share a common thread about how humans connect with each other. The short story is Thank You, Ma'am, written by Langston Hughes. It tells the story of a woman who responds to theft with unexpected kindness. The poem is How to Live in History by Yvonne Bloomer. It offers guidance to city politicians about using words wisely. I'll break down each text, share what I felt while reading, show how the two connect, and finally link both to the idea of the status quo. Let me walk you through the literary devices in Thank You Ma'am. First, Hughes uses dialect. The character speaks casually using words like hum, and ain't. This makes them feel like real people you might meet on the street. Second, the author uses action instead of long explanations. We don't get told Mrs. Jones is tough. We see her grab Roger, drag him up the stairs, and order him to wash his face. Third, there is a surprise twist. And instead of calling the police, Mrs. Jones cooks dinner. Fourth, Hughes focuses on everyday objects like a purse, a plate of food, and $10. These small things carry big meaning. Finally, the story uses third person point of view, so we see both Mrs. Jones and Jogger from the outside. Now I will explain the literary devices in Yvonne Bloomer's poem. First, she uses nature comparisons. She says, language is like a river that moves and like trees' roots that grow deep. These images feel peaceful and alive. Second, Bloomer uses broken lines. She splits sentences in unexpected places, forcing the reader to pause and think about each word. Third, the tone is commanding. The poem tells politicians directly what they should do. It does not ask nicely, it instructs. Fourth, the poem has specific audience. It was written for the Victoria City Council, so the advice is meant for real leaders. Fifth, the poem uses short stanzas. Each paragraph stands alone like a new piece of advice. Here's how I reacted to Thank You Ma'am. At the beginning, I felt confused. A boy tries to steal a woman's purse and she simply drags him home. That is not what I expected. But as I kept reading, a warm feeling grew inside me. When Mrs. Jones shares her supper with Roger, I felt like I was sitting at that table too. The story reminded me of my own grandmother, who always believed in giving people another chance. By the end, I felt hopeful. Maybe people really can change if someone shows them kindness. My reaction to the poem was different. At first, I felt relaxed because the nature images are beautiful. Talking about rivers and roots made me feel calm. But I will be honest, I felt a little bored at the beginning because the poem does not have a story or characters. It just gives advice. However, I got more interested when the advice became direct and strong. Bloomer starts commanding the politicians to listen and pay attention. By the end, I felt frustrated. I realized that most real politicians probably do not follow this advice. That made me sad. Let me show you how these two texts connect and where they differ. First, the connections. Both texts care deeply about how people treat each other. Hughes showed this through Mrs. Jones' kindness. Bloomer showed this through instructions for politicians. Second, both use simple everyday language. There are no fancy, confusing words. Now for the differences. The biggest difference is that Hughes tell one specific story about one boy and one woman. Bloomer gives general rules that could apply to anyone. Also, Hughes uses characters to make his point. Bloomer used nature images like rivers and roots. Finally, one text is heartwarming and emotional, the other is instructional. Now let me talk about the status quo. The status quo means the normal automatic way society works. Sonia Sanchez said writers either fight to change it or work to keep it the same. Both of my texts fight to change the status quo. Normally, if someone tries to steal your purse, you call the police. That is the status quo. But Mrs. Jones breaks that rule. She feeds Roger and gives him money. He uses saying the normal punishment system might not be the best answer. Bloomer fights a different status quo. Normally, politicians give speeches and talk a lot, but they rarely stop to really listen. Bloomer says that the status quo is wrong. Listening is more important than talking. Leaders need to change their behavior. Time to wrap everything up. Langston Hughes gives us a simple but powerful message. And thank you, ma'am. One single act of kindness can redirect a young person's entire life. You do not need to be rich or famous, you just need to care. Yvonne Bloomer gave us a different but related message in how to live in history. Leaders who want to be remembered will need to stop talking and start listening. Both authors agree that the normal way of doing things is not good enough. We need to change. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation.